Okay, so we're going to be looking at 10 different movements for improving a squat movement pattern, being the first couple of mobility ones, and the first one's an ankle one. All right, so to do the ankle mobility drill, all you need to do is, you don't necessarily need a band, but the band does really help it to improve quite substantially more than without it. Now, the most important thing is when you bend forward very slowly, as Mel shows here, you've got to make sure that your heel doesn't lift off the floor. It's got to stay dead flat. So you're trying to get as much of a stretch through the ankle joint as you can without that heel lifting. And the second thing you don't want to do is have that knee rolling inward to get there. All right, so make sure that that knee stays right over the second toe, which is the toe next to the big toe. All right, so make sure you're just gently rocking forward in and out. The band just helps to encourage better stability of the ankle joint to allow more dorsiflexion. Now, to see how that drill actually assists you in a squat, you could actually, later on if you wanted to, you could actually keep that band there as Mel's done here, and now actually bring the squat movement pattern into it. So you're really emphasizing the ankle mobility within the squat pattern. This is usually one of the biggest culprits of ruining the timing and positioning of the joints. That really corrupts the movement pattern itself, right? So that's the ankle mobility drill. The next one we would do is a hip, trying to improve some hip mobility. So if ankle mobility is one of the biggest culprits, the next one would be hip mobility. Many ways to achieve this. I could use foam rolling if I wanted to. One of my preferred favourites is the 90-90 stretch. So I'm basically just sitting in that 90-90 position with both legs. And then from here you just have that gentle bending forward action. All right, so you can see here as Mel's bending forward, she's got her legs at almost 90-90, but you get the idea. And then she just has that bending forward to just get more flexibility through the hip itself, which really puts the same position that you would have when you're in the squat itself. All right, so you'd be in that position. So it's ensuring that you can keep that lumbar curve. So make sure you only bend as far as you can, maintaining the lumbar curve as Mel's got there. All right, so around about 30 seconds on each side would be all you need to do. All right, so once you've moved from these basic mobility of ankle and hip, now we're going to move into trying to improve the squat movement pattern, but giving some extra assistance in terms of stability, so to help you find the better position. So the wall squat's a great choice. You've just got to make sure you do it correctly, all right? So you can see how Mel really positioned her feet a lot closer to the wall than most people would. Most people have their feet fair way forward and they lean back on it. You've got to make sure that you keep your feet right under the ball there, all right? So you can see here, so step one is having a nice, comfortable shoulder width stance. The feet are almost directly underneath you, especially the heels, all right? So if your feet are over here, you're doing it wrong. All right, you're actually going to be leaning back, meaning you would fall backwards if that ball wasn't there. That ball should be gently assisting you to maintain a good thoracic extension here. All right, so that you're not hunching forward. Your butt should slide under the ball. All right, so you want to have this nice position and not a flat position like so. All right, that just ruins your squat later on. All right, so that's how you execute your Swiss ball wall squat. Once you've been able to demonstrate that effectively, you're about ready to move to body weight, where there's no more assistance anymore. Now, one of the first things I'll do is I'll add little heel plates to assist the ankle. Again, I definitely would do this if there's an ankle restriction. All right, so to do the body weight squat, it's quite simple. Again, you set up your nice shoulder width. You just lower yourself down. Only go as low as you can, that you can maintain that nice natural curve in the lumbar spine again. If you go too low and you roll under into a posterior tilt, that's no good. All right, you must only go as far as you can that maintains that nice position. Allow the knees to travel forward over the toes, making again that you're sure that your heels don't come off the plates. And there's no movement in your feet. There should be no movement of like twisting or turning in the feet there to do this exercise. You can have your hands out in front of you like that to counterlever the butt sitting back. And always remember that you're aiming for a nice what you're aiming for on this is to get perfect angle between the shin and the spine. You see that? That's what you're aiming for on all of the squats, apart from possibly the front squat where it might be a little bit more upright. Once you've mastered body weight squats, now it's time for dumbbell squats. So pretty much the same action. This time just obviously the load is held on the chest. And for some people this actually assists them in maintaining better thoracic extension. Alright, so they can really, the load, because the load's trying to drop you down, it forces a little bit more upright position through the chest to maintain a better core position. Again, the same angle of the shin and the spine. You're looking for that same parallel angles when you're executing this movement. All right, if you get that right, you should get great activity through the quadriceps. Lastly, to make sure that the knees don't roll in when you're at the bottom point there, so they should be maintaining their perfect alignment and not having any falling inwards. All right, and no movement through the feet. That's usually what you would see first. All right, so that's our dumbbell squat. You could start with the lightweight and head up to a greater weight as you get better at it. All right, so that's all the easy ones. Let's look at the hard ones. Okay, so now we're at the much more advanced type of squats, and this first one's the back squat. All right, so this is where you've got the barbell sitting on your back. Again, you have the same rules apply as with all the other squats. We have a nice comfortable position with your feet. If you need heel plates, you could continue using them, but usually by this stage you shouldn't be needing them. Now with the barbell, when you're setting it on your back there, you try to keep the elbows pointing down as best as you can, and again you're looking for this beautiful angle of the shins and the spine being parallel to each other. All right, so you can see how Mel's got a perfect angle there, and there's no movement through her feet. Ideally, we'd probably love her elbows to be pointing downward a bit more instead of just right behind, but that's something that she's still working upon at getting better at. But overall, her technique's quite sound. You can watch, see her no movement through her feet at all. Very, very solid. All right, so once you've done the back squat and you've really mastered that one, then you can progress to the next one, being the front squat. Now, there's many ways you can do this. You can use clean grips, which is like a weightlifting grip, but much more difficult to master. You can start with this version that Mel's got, which is with the arms folded, a little bit more comfortable, especially when you're getting used to it. Now, a lot more difficult version, this one. So when you're coming down, the trunk has to stay a little bit more upright. It's the only time we probably start to see the angle of the shin still being there, but the angle of the spine almost coming more upright. It's much more difficult to master. The thoracic demand is considerably more, as is the core demand. So, you know, you've got a hell of a lot more going on. Now, Mel does a fantastic job here. This is where she's really got good control of her thoracic spine. Those elbows are pointing directly ahead. If those elbows point down at any point, you're going to lose control of the movement. All right, so this is why it's so much more difficult than the back squat, where you don't have that problem to contend with. Usually the strength on this is significantly less than the back squats. All right, so a great one to master. Really will notice the strength through the quadriceps on this one in a big way, and the core, to be honest, as well. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed watching both of those exercises, and always remember that you're looking for that nice solid angles of all the spine and the shins on every single one of these. They should always be like that. All right, well, let's have a look at the next one. Okay, so now that we've done mobility of the ankle, hip, worked our way through stabilizing body weight squats to then strengthening through back and front squats, now we're up to the faster version of box jumps. All right, so let's have a look at these. So this time when you're jumping up, you really got to land in that perfect squat. So you don't want to land too low. The difference between the last ones is the speed of it, obviously. So now we're really encouraging the squat movement to be super fast, powerful. So it still needs its strength. You can't get power if you don't have strength first, and you won't get strength if you don't have good stability and movement skill first. All right, so This is an example of where you're really developing the speed in the squat, and that's what jumping is made from. And once again, you can see here when I'm landing that I've got to land in that nice squat. Probably lost it a little bit on this last one, maybe getting a bit sloppy. You know, you just got to see how I've just lost my posture through there a bit. Just got to try and maintain that nice posture that we had before. All right, so that's a great example of the box jump. After I've done the box jumps, I can now work into a little bit more of a harder version. I'll just play one more of those. Now I'm going to work into single leg squats. All right, so single leg squats are so much more difficult than the two leg ones because now I have a lot more stability. I actually have the frontal plane to contend with, which I'll show you in a second as well. But again, the same rules apply as what we saw with the two leg ones. It's just so much more difficult to get the same depth. I don't even really need weight on this one to make it hard, but I need to have that same angle. Just there's a hell of a lot more demand on the glutes on this now. All the other ones was more about quadriceps. This time now we're really seeing the glutes. The longer this goes, the more they get involved. Absolute essential exercise for anyone playing sports because most of the injuries we see are always on one leg. All right, so I really need to make sure that I have everything right in the two leg ones if I really want to truly master this to its full potential. All right, so an excellent exercise for everyone to be getting to. I could arguably have had this before the other ones, but it is, I've just put it in terms of how it's rated in terms of its difficulty of learning. So from a front on, this is where I mentioned the frontal plane, where we see the frontal plane being involved. And you see already contending with that, but frontal plane. So when I'm down here, my hip has got to control my knee trying to roll inwards, as is my foot. If my foot pronates in, I'm going to roll in. I'm going to get in this horrible angles of my bones, but looking like that. So my goal is to make sure that I keep in a dead straight line, and that's why the glutes work so hard in this exercise. And the core is maintaining perfect alignment of the trunk. So this is where my stabilizers of my abdominals are really trying to control all this sideways movement of my trunk falling out to the side. That's why it's called the frontal plane, because the frontal plane is moving from left to right. All right, so a much more difficult exercise, absolute essential one for most people to master. If you get this one right, you really do have quite good strength in your legs. All right, so there's our 10 squat versions.